dear participants. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the Global Symposium on Soil Sealing and Urban Soils. My name is Thorun Wolfram, and I have the honor of moderating this session. I serve as Secretary of the Global Soil Partnership, a mechanism established in 2012, hosted by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations within the Land and Water Division. This symposium comes at a critical time. By 2050, nearly 70% of the world's population is expected to live in cities. Urbanization brings great opportunities, yet it also places unprecedented pressure on soils, one of our planet's most fundamental yet vulnerable resources. Over the next 2 days, we will explore both the challenges and the opportunities surrounding urban soils. Today, under Theme 1, our focus will be on strategies for sustainable urban soil management, multifunctional land use, and the mitigation of soil threats, as well as the vital contribution of soils to biodiversity, water regulation, climate change mitigation, and food security. Tomorrow, under Theme 2, our discussions will turn to soil de-sealing and restoration, showcasing best practices, innovative methodologies, and policy solutions to bring sealed soil back to life. Before we begin, allow me to express our deep gratitude to the National Research Council of Italy for hosting us here in Pisa and for their generous support. We also warmly acknowledge the International Union of Soil Science and its Soils of Urban, Industrial, Traffic, Mining, and Military Areas, our SUTMA Commission, for their leadership and dedication in co-organizing this important gathering. The timing of this symposium could not be more opportune, as it coincides with the SUTMA conference, creating a unique opportunity to foster synergies, strengthen collaboration, and mutual support among scientists, policymakers, and practitioners. Finally, let me also extend our sincere appreciation to our colleagues at FAO's Green Cities Initiative for their active engagement and invaluable contribution in preparing this event. It is now my honor to invite Mr. Li-Feng Li, Director of FAO's Land and Water Division, to deliver his opening remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Thorun, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, and all join us online. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this Global Symposium on Soil Sealing and Urban Soils, co-organized by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and its Global Soil Partnership, as well as the Green Cities Initiative, in partnership with the Commission on Soil of Urban, Industrial, Traffic, Mining, and Military Areas of the International Union of the Soil Science, IUSS. All of us who live in cities have felt the difference of soils can make. A heavy summer rain can either drain safely into the ground or flood streets that have been sealed. And a hot afternoon can feel unbearable in the concrete neighborhoods, yet a few blocks away, tree-lined areas with healthy soils are often several degrees colder. These daily experiences remind us that the soils are not invisible. They are part of daily urban life. The theme of this year's GSP Global Symposium, Healthy Soils for Healthy Cities, is timely and urgent. As mentioned by the moderator, by 2050, nearly 2/3 of the world population is projected to live in urban areas. While urban growth creates opportunities, it also brings serious challenges. The sealing of living soils and concrete and asphalt, and also the loss of fertile land. Healthy urban soils are often overlooked, yet they provide essential ecosystem services, supporting food production, storing water and carbon, help cities to adapt to flood and heat, and shaping a much better living environment. Some estimates suggest that urban and peri-urban agriculture contribute between 5 to 10% of global food, much of it in vegetables. Soil sealings, on the other hand, reduces water infiltration capacity of urban areas, increases urban temperatures, and accelerates the loss of peri-urban land, threatening food security. Pollution from industry, traffic, and waste adds further risks to urban agriculture and green spaces. Protecting and restoring urban soils is therefore essential to building more resilient and sustainable cities. This means better urban planning to protect fertile land in urban and peri-urban areas and limit soil sealing, investing in de-sealing and restoration of urban soils, and applying sustainable soil management practices that secure food security and healthy environment and improve well-being. This symposium takes place as FAO marks its 80th anniversary. Since 1945, FAO has worked with the member nations and partners to advance food security and nutrition, continuously adapting to global challenges from hunger and malnutrition to climate change, biodiversity loss, and rapid urbanization. FAO, in partnership with UNESCO, collaborated with many countries and developed the first generation of the map of the world soils in 1960s, 70s, and early 80s. Building upon that, FAO also created and hosted the Harmonized World Soil Database, the most comprehensive global soil information system at a 1 kilometer resolution. Further, through our normative works, we created the World Soil Charter, established the Global Soil Partnership, developed voluntary guidelines for sustainable soil management, and also international code of conduct for the use and management of fertilizers. This gathering is a milestone of such ongoing evolution. Today, FAO's work is guided by FAO's Strategic Framework 2022 to 2031, which seeks to transform agri-food systems to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable, leaving no one behind. Urban soils are not the whole story, but they are a critical part of it. They provide a concrete entry point for the four betters: better production by protecting fertile land and supporting urban and peri-urban agriculture, better nutrition by enabling safe and diverse food systems in and around cities, better environment by restoring ecosystem services, storing carbon and water, and reducing urban heat island effect and disaster risks, and better life by creating greener and healthier and more resilient communities. This symposium demonstrates FAO's collaborative approach in action. By bringing together scientists, planners, policymakers, and practitioners, we are not only sharing knowledge, but also shaping the practical solutions that can inspire cities and communities around the world. I wish to thank the International Union of Soil Science and its Commission on Soils of Urban, Industrial, Traffic, Mining, and Military Areas, as well as the National Research Council of Italy and its Research Institute of Terrestrial Ecosystems for hosting us here in Pisa and supporting this important event. As FAO marks 80 years of unity, support, and collaboration with its member nations, this symposium is a reminder of how our collective commitment to soils can support healthier cities, sustainable development, and the well-being of the current and future generations. I wish you a very productive and inspiring symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your inspiring words. Your advocacy for soil as the foundation of food security, water resilience, and sustainable land use deeply resonates with our shared purpose and sets a meaningful tone for the discussions ahead. With that, it is my pleasure to welcome our distinguished keynote speakers, who will set the stage for today's conversations. I now have the pleasure to invite Professor Wolfgang Buchart, whose reflection on 20 years of SUTMA will set the scene and provide a historical framework for our discussion. The name of his presentation, 25 Years of SUTMA, Urban Soils, a New Research Field in the Soil Science. What makes the soils and the interest in the soils so special? Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to thank the Global Soil Partnership for this invitation and having this symposium. The question is really why we should define special soils in urban areas, what makes them so very special. And I will give you some ideas which are more located not on the normal discussion on heavy metals and so on, but an idea which is a general input. Please, the next one. So, why SUTMA? SUTMA, as we did here already, is originally founded as Urban Soil Working Group in the ISS, International Union of Soil Science, in 1998. It had its first conference in Essen in 2000, and I named the time this conference Soils of Urban Industrial Traffic and Mining Areas. Later on, Jean-Louis Morel from France added military areas, and in short, the name is SUTMA. It is very interesting that now even the colleagues speak from soils as SUTMA soils, yes, in urban areas. So we are speaking now from SUTMAs when we are speaking from urban areas. Please, the next one. Okay, I will go on. Please, the next one. So the question is, what's the difference between the land soils and urban in natural landscape in the soil in an urban area? When we look on natural landscapes, main factors are gravity forces. Yeah, in urban areas, we have realistic byproducts of commercial, social, and administrative decisions. To a minor extent, these soils, like a state or park areas, is a targeted soil. Some soils are left natural, not all are affected by humans. So when we look on the attributes of natural soils, then the soils are related in a landscape. Yes, when you have the soil on the hilltop, on the valley, they are related with each other. This important is what we don't really see. The soils are carrier of informations. Yes, informations how the landscape they develop, and it's similar to the gene of creatures. Yes, they are carrier of informations, and the soils are imbalanced. It's clear with the natural environment. When we look on urban areas, these soils are mostly transported, so they are related by transport. They are placed on small parcels, so are part of parcels where the soils are restricted to a parcel. We will see the soilscape is strongly dissected and clear. The city has a special environment, so the soils are in a new environment, and most of this environment comes from land use. Please, the next one. Yeah. So, yes, please, the next one. The point is, when you look on a rural landscape or natural landscape, you have large catchment areas. Yes. When you look on an urban landscape, the catchment areas are dissected. So we have a lot of small catchments, yes, with different elevations, which is typical for urban areas, and this is quite different than from rural areas. Please, next one. So, one important point is this way the urban water balance is changed. We have different distances of surfaces to the groundwater, either by excavation or by fill up. So it will, for example, change the evapotranspiration. Please, someone keep Okay. Then we have a deep topped groundwater table. This by drainage or the water supply is to reduce from the roofs. So because the roofs are directly drained to the rivers. And this means generally in urban areas we need dry areas. So these areas are always drained in any way. Then a new tendency is that we want to keep the water in the soil, in the city. Yeah, and this means we start with stormwater infiltration and the city. And the other point is clear. In the city, you have green areas, garden areas. In dry summer times, you have to irrigate them. Here, just an example of stormwater infiltration plots. On the left side, you see the infiltration of stormwater from roofs. Yes, in front of the roofs, you see small ditches where the water will be infiltrated. On the right side, you see similar for a street water infiltration plot, yes, with a small ditch, yes, where the water can infiltrate. And we have another point. We have climatic effects, which are not really discussed. We have high buildings in the cities, yes, and we prefer, yes, to keep the land ceiling as less as possible. We have high buildings, and these buildings have a weather side, a loose side, and a side where the weather is which is sheltered from the weather. That means that one side gets lots of rain and there's wet. There are wet conditions. On the other side, you will see there are dry conditions. Yeah. So with time, this must have an effect on soils and soil development. So we have a climate effect, yes, by large building. Yes, please, next one. Then another point is we have a strong reduction by sealing of surface area of soils. But we have another point, or points which are not really discussed. We have a technical erosion, and we have a high stone content. Both will affect the available soils. Please, the next one. Yes, here the example of sealing. We differentiate 3 types of sealings. That means continuous sealings, as you know, from streets. But for pavements, you have in part sealings. Yes, not all is really totally sealed. And the other point is underground sealing. Yes, it's have from car parks or from underground railways and so on. And all 3 have different effects on soils and different types of soil formation. Please, next one. Yeah. So here, just example from technical erosion on the left side. You see a large area is just taken off, and the natural counterpart you can see is quite different. So we lose in urban areas a lot of soil, yes, by excavation. Yeah, this is the next one. We have in urban soils high contents of stones. That means it diminishes the availability of fine earth, and to the fine earth, you know, the capacity to storage water, nutrients, carbon is bound, and with fine earth you have also a dilution effect for contaminated dust. Yes, so this we lose or this is reduced in urban areas. We have another point. In urban areas you have a lot of dust. We have flat, smooth areas where dust can be easily transported and accumulated in any place. You see here on the left side, yes, dust deposition on a wall, yeah, and for this a soil formation. And the other point is on the right side, there's a layer of ashes. This has been before on place, and this was abundant about 30 years ago. And today we find 4 to 5 centimeters soil on it. how it comes. And this in Germany, yes, in a quite not dry climate. Yeah, and so we have really near the surface a high transport of soil material, of dust, and so maybe this is an important factor. Please, the next one. So we have another point, the aeration of soil, and this is perhaps the most important point in underneath streets. Yes, you see in the left side the profile underneath a street. This is silty loam. This is not a high content of large pores, so it is not good aerated. And you can see this by the blue color. Yes, iron is transformed in a blue color. When you have really in the middle, here's the picture, when you have influence of groundwater, this is much more expressed. But you can have such situations also when you add to the soils organic matter. Yes, when you have organic sludges incorporated, for example, then you get even these reduction processes because organic matter clear consumes oxygen, and by this you get reduction processes. This will be an important point in these cities which are near Wall Street. Yes, under the streets there must be a lot of production processes. Please, next one. So we are speaking much about technosols. We are seeing normally always the pieces of them, but we're not thinking about what is this material like. Please, the next one. This material is heat treated. Yeah, when you look for ash, fly, slag, cement, concrete, bricks, iron, plastic, all are products which are heat treated, and we don't think about it, what it really means for the soil and soil formation and so on. Please, the next one. Another point is we have nitrogen to look for. We have a lot of emissions which contain in the city nitrogen, yeah, NOx, and this is washed out by rain. And the question is what it's doing in the soil. We don't know. Yeah, we have nitrogen processes in burial ground. Yeah, there we have the production of ammonia and what it's doing in the ground because it's very poisoning. We have the problem of nitrogen production from compost, and all this means that we have no real studies about this. We have to do more about this. Please, the next one. So we have the conclusions. There are numerous and specific urban interplays of factors of soil formation by land use, by surface figuration, by water management, by climate, by techno-erosion, and by artificial rocks. Is the next one. We have to add to this view of very specific demands. And these are the way of and quality of life in cities and urban soils. They will affect the development of soils. It means the supply of food and water has an effect. The physical and mental health has an effect. Particularly the mental health plays today a high role. Many people are ill today, mental, and the city, the green in the city can do to help them. And we have then the problem of security. I'm an old man. I'm happy when I get a heart attack that there's nearby the street or it's all really sealed. Then we have also to look on urban nature. Due to that, what I told you, we must have a high diversity of soils in the cities and many niches. And maybe these extraordinary properties of soils bring up your special nature, and this is what we were interested. Thank you. And now, final, what you see, the creation of a gardener. I call it an autosol. is a car, Trabi, used as a plant. Trabi was an old car produced from Germany. For your attention, I thank you.
Thank you, Professor Burkhardt, for this insightful presentation. Yes, urban soils are very special and should be managed to meet city needs to improve urban quality of life. It is my pleasure now to introduce Professor Anna Paltseva from Purdue University, USA, whose work bridges urban ecology and public health. And the name of her presentation is The Importance of Soil Health in Urban and Peri-Urban Settings. Please, Anna.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm happy to join you remotely. It is my pleasure to share with you today my journey, my vision, and hope for the urban health and peri-urban settings. My relationship with soil started long before I became a soil scientist. In the Russian countryside that you see right now, where I grew up, my parents, who are professional agronomists, they taught me from early childhood how to take care of our land, grow our own fruits and vegetables, and be mindful about the surroundings. I ended up going to a city that ironically turned out to be one of the largest concrete jungles. So with this passion for healthy soils, growing up in a rural environment, I ended up living in New York City, where I began noticing how urbanization transforms soils, sealing, heating, reshaping the ground beneath us. Sometimes people would ask me, so what do you do for a living in Manhattan? And I would say, well, I'm a soil scientist. They would say, but look, there's no soil around. I wanted to roll my eyes because I knew there's so much beauty underneath our feet. And here you can see just a few examples of heterogeneous urban soils. The soils are very unique in their properties. Some of them are natural, some of them are heavily human altered. Very often they're contaminated. This is the focus of my research. But also they are full of potential. Urban soils give us life. This is where life begins and life eventually ends. In America, more than 80% of population resides in cities. But what happens when we neglect our soils? Soil sealing impermeable surfaces by asphalt and concrete, they affect infiltration of water. This poor infiltration causes rapid runoff and potential increase of flood risks that causes water pollution. At the same time, impervious surfaces can raise the temperature of our urban environment by 1 to 3 degrees of Celsius compared to its rural counterparts. Over 50% of urban expansion, urban growth happens because we replace forests. So we transform natural forest lands into urban landscapes. Currently, about 1 out of 4 US residential soils or households exceed the EPA lead screening of 200 parts per million of lead. In some cities in the Midwest, Indianapolis and Chicago, where I live right now, it's even higher, 37 or 53% of soils that exceed this level. 80% of American cities have peri-urban areas close to very intense, extensive agriculture that uses a huge amount of pesticide without sufficient protection of buffer zones, increasing risk for pollution. But soils are not just victims of urbanization, they are our powerful allies if we manage soils wisely. Even in the densest cities, our soils quietly providing services to us. They filter water, store carbon, support green spaces, preserve our heritage. But there is more than just providing services. There is also a deeply human side. Let me ask you a simple question. Why do people grow food in cities that have everything in stores? Growing up in rural environment, I ask myself this question very often, living in big cities. And why would someone in Manhattan or Chicago grow tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, where in grocery store around the corner, they have everything year round? So the answer isn't just about the food, it's also about connection. Today, more than half of American household garden. The pandemic added nearly 18 million gardeners. Most of them are young adults. For many, it's not just about growing food or even a reduction of grocery bill. It's also about mental health, physical activity, education, and community building. And also when children get their hands dirty and grow their own vegetables, they're more likely to consume those vegetables. So that's how change or behavior change really begins. Concerns about inflation, tariff, possible disruptions to the food supply have driven people to grow food more and more in their own backyards or in community gardens to ensure that they have a fresh produce, consistent one. With grocery prices rising, and gardening is also seen as a practical way to offset those food expenses and help families to stretch their budgets. Gardening provides healthy, pesticide-free food, promotes physical activity, mental well-being. It reduces stress and improves your mood. A lot of Americans are motivated by environmental concerns, seeking to lower their carbon footprint, support pollinators, and adopt climate-friendly practices in their own backyards. Community and urban gardening efforts have surged, fostering social connections, mutual aid, and greater resilience. People garden to pass down knowledge from generation to generation to younger children or to preserve their cultural traditions. So it's really important to know where the food comes from, especially when we grow and live in concrete jungles. So urban soils are not just an environmental issue. They are also a social one. And that's why education is so important. And I'm all about bringing soil science to communities. I love to say that my science, soil science, is people science. And I try to find a way how to bridge this gap between university, academia, and citizens, people of cities. Here's some ideas I put together in a framework how we can include more people engage them in urban soil research. For example, integrating mobile apps, web platforms, just special tools so we can streamline data collection from people and engage those individuals, get a real-time feedback, develop targeted outreach programs to involve underrepresented communities, vulnerable, marginalized communities. Collaborate with policymakers, urban planners, environmental advocates, just like the group we have today, and turn participatory science into actionable policy recommendations. We should partner more with schools and educational institutions to really include more soil science in the curriculum. So children know from early age where our food comes from and how to grow it in their schoolyards if they don't have their own backyards. We should establish an open data platform where people can access data, share it, analyze it, and really being engaged. We should be more transparent about making results of our soil research more publicly available. And creating some fun activities, some games, why not? Challenges and reward system that would maintain people's interest to be involved for long term in participatory science projects. We really need to invest in encouraging people in the children to be involved in our science project, but also get something in return. For example, we can create more books, more labs, more videos, more different tests. And there was this great book that recently came out to the market. And why it's so great? Well, because I wrote it. I was working on in New York on putting together labs for my students who were at botanical gardens. And it needed to be not super complicated because we had a short period of time to do the workshops, and we needed to have it in not very high-tech lab condition. So I put together these 20 activities that now anyone really can do it, and you can get this book in English in anywhere in the world through Springer website. But it really gives us opportunity to study what we have in our gardens, in our environments. And you don't need to have a lab and don't need to be a scientist or take a university course. You can just try to dig soil, get your hands dirty, and learning what pH is, what soil texture is, where potentially contamination can come from. And all it can be done very relatively easy. Researchers found that soil education performances can be improved when we use attractive graphics and modern digitally based strategies. And here's some examples on how I do it. I love translating soil science into the language that people, public, can actually understand and care about. And I do it by creating some actionable infographics so people can clearly see what they should and shouldn't do, and publishing in magazines, for example, not just journal scientific articles, because most of people don't have access to it. And those articles are very sophisticated and sometimes very hard to understand and very long. So we need something that is much simpler to understand and anyone can have access to. Another example is that younger audiences don't read textbooks anymore, and these young people really consume their information mostly through screens. So why not meet them where they are? Translating soil lessons into reels, stories, short videos. Through my platform, House of Soil, and my TEDx talk, I show that soil is not just science. It's culture, style, and identity. And it's time for us to get creative and share soil knowledge through our experiences and our stories. And this is how we make soil science more attractive. This is how I believe we can make people or encourage people to care more about the soil health in our urban cities. So the way to preserve urban and peri-urban soil is through integration of soil into urban planning, which is often stays ignored. It's through promotion of unsealing our paved roads and make our soils capable of infiltrating stormwater again. By building more green infrastructure, parks, green spaces, bioswales, urban wetlands. And we must bridge science, policy, and citizens together. And we can do it through education, by bringing soil literacy and participatory sciences. So the health of our cities begins with the soil. Let us unseal, restore, and reconnect, because regeneration starts from the ground up. From my family's garden in a rural area to community plots in New York, I've learned that soil always gives back when we give it a chance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Paltseva. Indeed, very inspiring, and especially when it comes to dissemination from the science, hardcore science, into something that the children and, of course, parents and grandparents and all of us should really take into the heart. It's actually a matter of that, no? It's getting into the heart and care for the soil. If it's in urban areas or in rural areas, it's always the same connection. Really, really beautiful. Thank you so much. We will move to the next presentation, which is given by Professor Paulo Alessandro da Silva Pereira from Mykolas Romeris University, Lithuania, who will focus on soil pollution and its impacts on ecosystem services in urban areas. And his presentation is titled Soil Pollution Impacts on Ecosystem Services in Urban Areas. Please, Mr. Pereira.
I'm very happy to be here with you and sharing a bit about the effects of soil pollution in ecosystem services. Of course, it's a bit a continuation of what the first speaker told, but in the end is trying to connect this a bit with ecosystem services and how the soil pollution can be linked directly and indirectly with ecosystem services. So I'll not try to repeat what was told before, that we have a lot of population around the world, and this will increase. And we nowadays have more urban people than rural people, which is a good evidence of the population dynamics around the world. But I would like to highlight that there is a degree of urbanization around Europe is getting very, very high, especially by the occupation of rural areas. This means a great substitution from soils that have agricultural land use towards urban end use. This shift, of course, have changes in the ecosystem service provided by soils, because the soil sealing and the soil pollution is increasingly expanding to rural areas. But apart of this, so when we speak about the impacts of urbanization on soils, we speak especially about urban and peri-urban areas, and with this I mean that this is mainly focused on the not so much in rural areas, although in urban areas there are also some kind of urban gardens where agriculture is practiced. So what we have in urban areas, so we have the sealing, of course, with the concrete, with the asphalt, but also have compaction because of the management in urban areas. We have erosion, as you saw in previous presentations. We have pollution. That is what we're gonna be more focused in this presentation. So one of the important things that happens in areas affected by sealing, compaction, and erosion is the pollutant distribution, because this means that the areas that are normally likely cannot be affected directly by pollutants or very much, can be affected if there is a pollution distribution. So we have these examples when you have soil erosion in urban areas and creation of some rills, that these pollutants that are caused by the management, they can be distributed in asphalt, that can be worked and reworked and absorbed. So this is start to be a very big complicated issue or complex in a way that analyze the pollutant dynamic, spatial, temporal in urban areas. Okay. Another important issue that needs to be highlighted is that the management in urban areas likely is done as in rural areas, because as you see in this picture here, that there is tractors with some kind of load that are managing the urban areas. So likely the impacts of the compaction tend to be high and tend to be quite considerable, and this will affect all properties, functions, and services. So another important thing in the urban areas is that the facts of the constructions. The constructions, when they are done, they leave a lot of pollutants, and especially pollutants related with microplastics that are not so much explored in urban areas, and they are very important in terms of affecting the ecosystem services, when we will speak later. Another important issue is that these pollutants that are produced in the urban areas are dumped in the water and in the water bodies. As you see here with this drone photography, you see that the water has a green color. This is because of the surrounding areas that are put some kind of nutrients that make this kind of algae bloom. So this means that we cannot assess the impact of soils on ecosystems supplied by soils itself, but supplied by other ecosystems as the fresh water. So everything is interconnected. Another important issue is that what is the importance of the roads on the ecosystem service provided by the lawns? So there is a lot of studies focused on pollutants, focused on compaction, focused on vegetation cover, but essentially these areas also are very vulnerable to the impacts of the traffic. So basically, this is a lot of spatial temporal impacts, and the human impacts on the soil and ecosystem services is starting to be a very important aspect in urban areas, because they are important for people well-being and for the services as especially the regulating that are being hampered. So I don't know if or many of you have heard about this ecosystem services concept, that is basically the goods that the nature gives to the people, and that they are divided in three main groups. So provision, the regulating, the provisioning, and the culture. Okay, soil pollution have impacts on each of them. So we're here to understand how this works. So regulation services, well, as a definition, they can be categorized as the ones that come especially for how they can regulate the climate, the floods, and other natural hazards, and they are mainly done by the vegetation. The provision is mainly the food that is supplied by the ecosystems. In the cultural is the intangible benefits that the ecosystem can provide as recreation or aesthetic values. So one important thing is that in urban areas are known to can have positive or negative impacts on ecosystem services. We cannot say that all negative impacts occur, because there are also cultural services and people need the infrastructure to perform their activities for recreation. So soil sealing and compaction, erosion, and pollution are responsible for reduction of mainly provision and regulation ecosystem services. But on the other hand, the creation of new infrastructures for recreation can also an impact on the land use. So one of the things that's happening in the cities is that cities or urban planners are substituting agricultural areas by new created green areas, and this substitution in somehow can be seen as negative, because they are destroying agricultural area that can have good benefits, even regulating benefits, and we are putting an artificial urban green area that can have negative effects because it's managed. Most of them are managed with using agrochemicals. So this is not positive at all, creating these new green areas. So when we speak about urban soil pollution and ecosystem services, we have to understand what is the drivers of this soil pollution. So is the urban green managed areas, because they are done with tractors, they produce some kind of petroleum products and microplastics and all this stuff. The traffic, the industry, the waste, the construction, and the wastewater that can affect this. So what is going to create in what kind of pollution? So as you may know, heavy metals, they have also the microplastics, and they have this persistent organic pollutants that are a new kind of pollutants that are very difficult to take from the nature. And what is having impacts, of course, in all these three ecosystem services. And how we have this. So the pollution basically have an impact, increase the toxicity of the soil. Okay. Once this happens, increase this toxicity of the soil, we have a changing in microbiological activity. And if you have a change in microbiological activity, you have an impact on vegetation growth. So to understand the impacts of the soil on ecosystem services, we should not only be focused on the soil itself, but on the cascade of impacts that this may occur. So one of the problems regarding the vegetation growth or the lack of it is the erosion regulation. And what is going to be is going to reduce the sediment retention, as you saw in the photo that I showed before. Another thing is that the lack of roots and vegetation will decrease the water infiltration. Another important thing is that if the soil is contaminated and there is less vegetation, of course, you have less vegetation grow. And this is also happening for the water and the air and water purification. Focus a bit on the pollination. If the soil is heavily polluted, of course, you don't have grasses to grow. And the pollination and the food for the bees is affected as well. Another important aspect, and this is also likely more connected with the soil itself, is that the toxicity in microbiological activity and vegetation growth has implications on the nutrient cycle, and they can change this process. So they can change the nutrient availability, the microbiological activity, the litter input on the soil, important for the nutrient cycles, and there is changes on the phosphorus, nitrogen, the carbon, biochemical factors, only because the soil pollution increase. And finally, there are other two ecosystem services that are important, that is the carbon sequestration, because if there is a change in the microbiological activity, these microbiological activities might be reduced. The same thing for the litter input and the change of ecological cycles in the erosion. Also affects the carbon sequestration. All these aspects also have impact on the soil formation, but this is not, in my opinion, the soil formation is mainly affected by the sealing of the surface. The pollutions also affect, because they affect microbiological activity, but in this case the effect is lower. So if you see the same process and we apply this to the food production, if the soil is not in good conditions, of course you have less crop and biomass yield in urban areas. And one of the problems is that the compost applied in urban gardens, most of them have antibiotics and have microplastics. And the effect of this is still not known, but likely are not good. Other aspect is the question of the medicinal resources, that the plants in high toxicity can be sick, and the purpose of them might not be what we see it. And the water supply, of course, if the soil is polluted, of course, the water quality will be reduced. So basically, we have to see how we can connect these aspects. And finally, the pollution have impacts on the same process, but they have impacts on landscape aesthetics. And this is the ecosystem service related with the cultural area. So if the ecosystem is not healthy, the vegetation not grow, we'll have more difficulties to see the landscape as something that is beautiful. But it's come a bit more of the perception, and the cultural aspects is more related with the perception rather than the properties of the soil itself. So it's a more diffuse and more abstract concept that needs to be assessed as well. So of course it have less habitat quality. We have been assessing using drones in urban areas and try to see the areas where the services are more problematic or are reducing. So use different indexes, and there are remote sensing index, this AGN DVI, that is a derivation of the DVI that is better, to assess what is the impacts of these roads on the soil ecosystem services. And we see here that you look to the scale, so brown the worst, but with the brown that are here are roads, so the soil is sealed. But if you see with attention, the areas that are closer to the roads are the ones where they have lower values. This means the soil status and the vegetation status might have some issues. So all this toxicity, metabolic activity, and vegetation growth have an impact on all this erosion regulation, soil regulation, climate regulation, and so on, because the soil basically is almost bare and there is no vegetation. So all this cascade of problems are increased in these areas. Another aspect that we also working is the question of the carbon sequestration. So the same area, and we see that these areas also have an index lower that are near the streets. So what you see is that this area, because they have less vegetation, they have more bare soil, the carbon sequestration by the plants and by the soil is much lower. So basically, we have another case there when you have using this new evidence, new technology, you can assess how the soil can and the impact of humans can have impact on the soil carbon sequestration. Okay. Another thing that the soils, although it's not so related to what we are speaking here, have impact on the climate regulation. And there was some in the first presentation, the speaker was speaking about the increase of the temperature on the surface. So as you saw before, the lawns that are near the streets are the ones that have a higher degradation, for example. So you can see that in this case, the lawns temperature was very high, 41 in the surface compared with the urban garden 31 and the forest 70. So the lawns, bad management, and there are some areas where they are vulnerable. This meaning that have a lawn or have an asphalt or mostly the same. So meaning that the green areas in urban environments are not ready or not supplying the services as mitigating the urban island and regulating the climate. This is the same thing for the carbon sequestration. It's the same index that was showed before. Oops, sorry. And you see that the lawns are the ones that have the lower lawns located near the streets are the ones that have the lower capacity to sequestrate the carbon. So basically, you see that there is a number of impacts that are causes of pollutants that have effects on the ecosystem services. So trying to be brief with the time, because we have 15 minutes only. So the urban activities in the sprawl are the cause of soil land degradation, and this pollution can trigger a cascade of negative impacts on vegetation growth and ecosystem services. So in urban environments, the regulating ecosystem services are the ones that are the most affected, especially in urban green areas, in lawns and so on, and they have increasing the vulnerability of these areas to the extreme events related with the climate change. Another thing is that the soil pollution affect the food production and water quality supply, and overall, the soil pollution itself, if we connect it with other aspects of the environment, can trigger also negative impacts on the air quality and microclimate regulation, as I showed it in the previous slide. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to share all these ideas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Pereira. Indeed, a good reminder on how soil pollution affects far more than just the soil itself, and how its impacts ripple through onward into the ecosystems and the carbon balance, and ultimately the resilience of urban life. Really something that we need to take into account much more than we do currently. We are now grateful, of course, very much thankful to our keynote speakers for their insightful contributions, which have set the stage for our discussions. And we will continue now to build on these perspectives and turn on to our next segment on strengthening the contribution of urban soils to agriculture, ecosystem services, and well-being. And I'm now delighted to welcome my colleague from FAO, Mr. Guido Santini from the Green Cities Initiative. This program works established in 2020 has the objective to improve the health and well-being of people in 1,000 cities worldwide by 2030. Guido will share insights on how green cities can strengthen food security and enhance human well-being. Please, Mr. Santini.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I have a short presentation. If you allow me to share my screen. Hold 1 second. Okay, share. Should be, yes. Okay, so sorry for the interruption. As mentioned, I'm officer in FAO. I'm part of the Plant Production and Protection Division, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Green Cities Initiative. That is a multidisciplinary initiative promoting health, well-being, and food security in cities through different thematic entry points. And I'm responsible for the agricultural thematic area, which is one of the pillars of the Green Cities Initiative. So, sorry, I will probably be repeating some of the figures that have been introduced before, but I just wanted to highlight the challenges that cities are facing and the world is facing. No? Population growth is evident. We're expecting 2/3 of the global population living in urban areas by 2050, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, there is a growing impact on cities, on resources, on biodiversity, on land, on forests. And we can see some worrying figures. 70% of food supplies is consumed by cities, and cities are responsible for 70% of greenhouse emissions. Another important figure that is not here is 30% of greenhouse emissions are coming from the food sector. And of course, energy and global waste are also a key, let's say, challenge linked to cities. Poverty, population is growing, and also slums are growing. You can see that how slums have been growing and are expected to. No, this is a projection of 2025. So this is a current situation where most of the slums are concentrated in Africa and South Asia, and slums also bring poverty. Another important element is also the vulnerability of cities to multiple shocks, particularly climate. So by 2050, we expect that 2.5 billion of people in more than 70% of cities will face climate shocks, will be affected by climate shocks. And floodings will also affect a large number of people across the globe. Agriculture will be declining in cities and around cities. We expect that 2.5 billion people will experience a decline in food production. COVID pandemic and other shocks have been affected the functionality of food systems. And also the wars like the Ukraine crisis has also further exacerbated the food crisis and also the cost of food production. The Green Cities Initiative is a FAO flagship initiative that was launched in 2020, as it was mentioned, with the ambition of by 2030 make tangible impacts on the health and well-being, and of course the food security of people living in 1,000 cities. And how do we achieve this? This will be mainly through the integration of forestry, agriculture, and bioeconomy into the urban fabric. Basically, the overall idea is to promote multifunctional green infrastructure, green spaces, where agriculture, bioeconomy, and forestry can be integrated through planning and policies that are the instrument to promote a more multidisciplinary and integrated perspective on how to develop cities. The Green Cities has three main pillars. One is knowledge management. So FAO is part of the core functions of FAO. So creating evidence on city, on agriculture, forestry, and bioeconomy. Creating a community of practice to facilitate the exchange among cities, and also city-to-city learning and knowledge exchange among cities. Capacity development, so supporting countries in implementing actions, technical assistance, and also policy assistance, facilitating the access to financial instruments, and also fostering multi-stakeholder, multi-level governance in cities. On the other side is also awareness raising, advocacy, and also measuring and monitoring the progress of cities towards becoming more greener. Some examples, we have various projects around the globe on different aspects of the green cities, from food production, so tree planting for agricultural outputs, food loss and waste reduction, transformation of food waste into valuable resources through, in this case, the black soldier flies. This is in the case of Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire, and also urban forestry greening projects like in Hana in Namibia. But I would like now to focus more on a key pillar of the green cities, which is the urban and pre-urban agriculture area. So basically, what we promote as FAO is a very broad concept of urban and pre-urban agriculture. It's not only urban. We also consider the peri-urban sphere as a fundamental area that is contributing to the food security of cities. And when we talk about urban agriculture, we talk about particularly high-value crops, fruits and vegetables, with short growth cycles, and ranging from a simple courtyard or balcony or a more sophisticated and automated greenhouse. And of course, urban and pre-urban agriculture is very diverse, and it varies depending on the location, the typology of production, also the objective of production, and the type of tenure, the collectivity or individuality, the degree of market orientation, and so on. We in FAO, we have defined four main categories, broad categories of urban and pre-urban agriculture. From home-based gardening, that is the traditional household gardening, as mentioned, could be a courtyard or a balcony, small scale, generally family-driven. Community-based systems, where we, especially where we think about community gardens or public space allocated for communities for joint production. More commercial farming that also can start from a small production enterprise to large-scale farms in around cities in particular. And institutional food growing, where like schools and hospitals that have a fundamental social and educational purpose. And talking about the scopes and benefits, it's also important to remind that urban agriculture is not simply food production of food. And we cannot expect urban agriculture to substitute the traditional rural production. Agriculture in cities can be a complement but not only for food supply, but also to create opportunities for employment, for income, access to nutritious food for families in low-income neighborhoods, nutrition education, social inclusion, and also contribute to the urban metabolism, reducing the heat island effects, and also contribute to circular economic activities. Some numbers, urban agriculture is also a reality at global level. An old estimate of 1996 estimated that more than 800 million people are involved in urban agriculture. But of course, this is an old estimate, and the figures must be much higher now. Some studies also highlighted that 266 million of urban households are involved in crop production in developing countries. In Latin America and Africa, almost 50% of urban dwellers are somehow engaged in agriculture. And also the irrigated areas around cities are very important. So almost 60% of irrigated crops are within a radius of 20 kilometers from cities. Some examples. This is not related to the FAO work, but there are some very important examples of how urban agriculture is part of the urban fabric, is part of the urban planning and the urban life. Example of agricultural parks, like in Valencia with the huertas, Fuenlabrada, Barcelona, Milan, land banks, and to facilitate the access to land and training for urban farmers, like in Rosario, in Argentina. The initiative Pariculteur of greening the roofs in Paris. And I won't go into all of them, but there are important examples at global level on how agriculture can really be a driver for changing local food systems. Of course, I'd like to also talk about the implications of and challenges of urban agriculture. Of course, we discussed about the quality of soils, which is definitely one of the major issues, but also the tenure aspects, the access to land and the regulatory framework and tenure. Problem with access to safe water is very serious, and with challenges for human health. And of course, there is a strong competition among different users in urban areas. There is a problem of unrecognition of agriculture into urban planning. So agriculture is often forgotten in planning and policies. Informality is also a typical modality of food production in cities. Many people are producing without permits, without regulatory frameworks, and this, of course, creates challenges in terms of health as well. There is also environmental risk, as we mentioned. The overuse of pesticides in urban areas can be dangerous. Sorry? Wastewater? Okay. And okay, a focus on soils and lands. I don't want to mention the challenges related to soils, but because it's been extensively discussed before, but I'd like to mention the importance of access to land and tenure. Securing tenure is fundamental to allow farmers to invest in their land. And also regulating and zoning agriculture is important to limit the competition for land for other uses, residential uses and industrial uses. Some closing remarks. It's important to, as I mentioned before, integrating urban agriculture in city planning through zoning is a key starting point to regulate and to, let's say, create the conditions for farmers to produce, to invest. and to become real entrepreneurs. Also, the nature of cities is also a natural hub to promote circular and regenerative practices. And this is highly encouraged to recreate, to regenerate resources, and to make scarce resources more available for urban agriculture. As mentioned, it's also important to promote integration with different aspects of agriculture, with recreation and ecosystem services, which is really the basis for healthy cities. Governance, promoting governance among different typology of stakeholders, so from governments at national and local levels, and civil society, private sector, academia. Scaling up, sharing. It's important to create networks of cities to share best practices and also lessons learned. And of course, ensuring more competitiveness for markets and create the conditions for farmers to produce more steadily and also to become more competitive in the market with comparing to farmers coming from rural areas. Some resources. Here you can find the web page of the Green Cities Initiative, but also one of the flagship publications that we produced recently, which is a source book on urban agriculture. I stop here and thank you everybody for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Guido Santini. It was a very insightful contribution that you gave to us. And for me, reflecting now what we have heard already to this afternoon, it strongly relates to what has already been mentioned, that we actually need to bring nature back into the cities and use the ecosystem services to really work with the nature, but not against it. And of course, bring food closer as well, like you say, not as like the main reason, but also like mentioned also by Anna previously, apologizing for using your first name, but it's really like bringing nature, bringing soil closer to us, to our part of being a human being. So thank you so much. And I would like to go back to our next presenter, which is Ms. Cynthia Davoli from the municipality of Milan. And Milan has actually been a pioneer in urban resilience through its Città Spunga, Sponge City, which is another way of working with nature. And that program has been transforming paved areas into permeable living spaces that absorb rainwater, reduce flooding, and restore the natural functions of soil within cities. Davoli has played a key role in integrating soil health into Milan's climate and spatial planning strategies, showing how local action can make cities greener, healthier, and more adaptive. Please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. And now I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and greetings from Milan. I will take a few moments of my presentation to introduce to you the public body I work for, Metropolitan City of Milan. Metropolitan City of Milan is a quite new intermediate territorial entity. This was established in 2014 to better manage the common interests of the area that consists in 133 municipalities, allocate resources more quickly and efficiently, and define the territorial strategy together with the municipalities. Our territory is pretty small, 1,500 square kilometers more or less, one of the most densely populated in Europe with over 3 million inhabitants. Half of the area is agricultural, 14% is urbanized, and only 8% is wooded. In the area near the two rivers, we have one of the east and one of the west side of our metropolitan city. This use of land is the result of a rapid urbanization that began after the Second World War. We have gone from being predominantly agricultural area to a high industrialized and urbanized one. The service I coordinate has produced all the data you will see in these slides, thanks to self-financed and European projects. So we are studying the components of the territory in detail, from 10 to 50 meters, land cover, ceiling index, naturalness, and local climate zones. We studied two climatological variables that are very significant for our area, heat island and potential runoff. Our average heat island is 2.5 degrees, with peaks of around 5 degrees. Talking about the potential runoff, under optimal condition, 70% of rainfall is repelled by the land, is not immediately absorbed, and run off on the streets and on the territory. In the condition where the soil is already wet or very dry, this percentage rises to 90%. All of this information is used to define sustainable development policy strategies that are incorporated to the 2030 Metropolitan Agenda of Sustainable Development, drawn up in line with the Italian and UNA agendas and strategies. We need all this data to identify the objectives and understand what action to take and where to take them. With regard to all issues relating to climate change adaptation and what we have defined as our resilient trajectory, we have strongly opted for the use of nature-based solutions because, as you've seen, we have a complex territory where every single intervention must be multi-objective and multi-beneficial. In addition to this, we understood how necessary it was to bring nature back, even with small or very small intervention, within the consolidated area for our municipality. We use ministerial funding and the Recovery and Resilience Fund from the European Union for urban forestry initiative involving 24 different municipalities and 120,000 plants, new plants. In addition to this, we have removed paving from some areas and create new woods and files. Many of these areas were working, many of the area we worked on required a central degree of remediation. In fact, we were historically quite huge industrial center for chemical and steel works. And as a result, we continue to find waste and artifacts from this less than eco-friendly past in our soil, as you can see in the pictures. So, what should we do? Carry on, keep us informed, work harder. Now we are completing 90 nature-based solution intervention for rainwater management, making our territory and our urban centers more permeable. These are the numbers. We already completed around 60 projects, and the rest should be finished by March 2026. Here you can see some examples of green transformation we have implemented in some of our city centers, the city centers of big and small towns. They are near park lots, they are in the city center, they are near a sport field and something like that. There's a small scale intervention, as you can see, but they are leading to a significant and cultural and social transformation as well, as a beginning of an ecological revolution. So, thank you. I try to be very quick because I know that the clock ran. Thank you so much and keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tavioli, for this inspiring presentation and this fantastic example of what we were actually talking about, how to bring nature back into the cities. And actually shows vividly how nature-based solutions can transform urban challenges into opportunities, bringing soils, water, and communities back into balance. And again, it's such a fantastic example of the essence of the soil, of healthy soil as the core of the system. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now wanted to head towards Chile. So I would like to invite Alejandra Becerra Ortiz from the Ministry of Housing and Urbanism of Chile. Is Alejandra Becerra Ortiz with us online? Now we have to. It does not seem to be. Well, we will just see what happens, and I will ask our next presenter. Our next presenter is online. Then instead, it's my pleasure to invite Varakiet Sudwarodom from Social Enterprises in Thailand to share his perspective on how social entrepreneurship can contribute to supporting farmers and enhancing urban and peri-urban agriculture in feeding cities. In Thailand, social enterprises are increasingly being recognized as key actors in sustainable development. Indeed, community value-added products can help thousands of households to generate income while building resilience. And I really want to say thank you so much for joining us, even though it's quite late in the day for you. So please, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Varakia. Sorry about it's my first time to use this presentation. I consider myself as 7 years ago, I purchased a land about in acre is about 52 acre in Nong Chok district. And because I'm sick of traffic jam in Bangkok, average Bangkokian, one person is about traffic jam 3 hours per day. So they're stuck in the traffic 60 hours a month, 22 hours, 20 hours a year, divided by 24 is 30 days in the road like this. So I'm designing my life. So I found a very nice land near the canal. And in Nong Chok district on the right hand here. Nong Chok district is about 236 square kilometers, the biggest district from 50 districts of Bangkok. And this is the land that I purchased 7 years ago. I'm a businessman turned now into farmer. Can you still hear? Very nice. Hello?
All good. Yeah, excellent. Please continue.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So as you can see, this is a rice field, and this 52 acres surrounded by chemical rice field, about 20,000 acres surrounding this my land. So this is the way of life in Nong Chok farmer. This is I recorded 5 years ago with my own camera, my telephone. The top view, you can see, this is the land. It took me 2 years to excavating, and because the soil is clear, it's very sticky. So when it's raining, I cannot forming the design. So I have to stop after the when the monsoon season came. So I design when it's in the dry season, I have to quickly. This is what I do is follow the king philosophy. I dig a pond to restore water, the rainwater. It took me 2 years to complete. I finished during the COVID-19 pandemic because nobody, the worker on construction worker do not want to get out from my land because of the pandemic. So I finished the project in May 2020. When they finish, a lot of people in June, lots of people sick of staying home, so they get out to my land to learn how to be independent because they have to difficult to find food, so they come to learn how to be sustainable. So as you can see, the land here is clay, it's not the soil. See, it's clay, it's not the soil. So when we finish excavation, our pH is about 3.5, maximum 4. So it's a little bit acid. So we have to cover our land with rice straw, and you see, we organize a meeting for people to come and then and do the charity work to improve the soil with rice straw, and we put the water compost, the microorganic, using banana lumps, and hundreds of people came. After this is I took this morning. After from clay, we turn into soil like this. From sticky hard soil, now clay, it's become soil. So the soil now is very, very soft after 5 years, after 2020. Very fertile soil. We do even EM ball for we use our own soil for do EM ball to help people for flood area to clean the water. This is when we finish. We gather, lots of people come and help me to restoring the fertile soil. When we have also a training center, I am in the part of the Agri-Nature Network Thailand. They have the network throughout Thailand. Thousands of people came on the opening of the training center. A short video for my transformation of the chemical rice field. After 30 years of chemical rice field, I turned into agri-nature without any chemical. I planted not a single crop. I planted many variety. I think about 2,000 species, from bamboo to Purdue or teak wood. I also planted carrot, garlic, garenka, ginger, turmeric. On the left hand side, you can see. This is the market area where I finished now last year. This is after excavation. The water came. After 4 years. And I bought another piece of land. It's about 55 acres for the community to, I have a social enterprise, then they can purchase my shares. Then they are allowed to use a piece of land. I'm planning the next 5 years, this land, this total 52 acres plus 55, 107 acres will be a utopia where we have a sustainable, we have wellness, longevity, we have own food, and this is a market area. We hold once a month, and next year we will have it every week. This is the picture 2 months ago. And for FAO last year visited us. I think this picture can tell it. From rice field, no tree. Now we have lots of tree, a lot of biodiversity, a lot of insects, birds. We have chicken farm, and Bangkokians started to come to visit our farm. We produce our own sugarcane, watermelon, tomatoes. This is our produce in the market, bamboo shoot, and we also grow our own rice. This is I built a marketplace for agri-nature network people to come and selling their products. I did not collect any land from them. It's a charity work to help community. This is sugar cane from my farm. I cut it and I donate to the school, 37 local schools surrounding Nong Chok. We even squeeze the juice from the sugar cane and keep the children for free at lunchtime. This is from our own soil. And Nong Chok district, we have about 200,000 people, 80 to 90%. They are Muslim. We are multicultural in Nong Chok district. We harvesting our own rice. We planted our rice field is about 2 acres. This is enough for us for 20 people in the farm. And we have some leftover. We sell it. We sell it to the local people who come to visit our market each month. We're planning to have a sustainability for wellness, longevity, alternative life, plus alternative medicine. And this year we are holding hand together with a team called Seeding Common Seed Team. Now we are planning to be, from next year, we are going to start to collect the seed. We are planning to be the biggest seed bank in Bangkok. Finish for my presentation. I hope everybody enjoy and hope one day you visit me in Bangkok. I started to build what we call the homestay waiting for you all to visit me. Thank you so much, Isabella, from the land of smile, Thailand. I am not a researcher. I am a doer. I'm a practical guy who do not wait for the crisis to come to me. I'm designing my life to be totally independent from the system. If no electricity, no water, I can survive, no problem. I have water tank, 250,000 liters producing from the pond, and we use stone, sand, and biochar from the bamboo from our farm to clean it and to clean it and use our own for own drinking and consumption. Yes, we can receive about 500 people if we have crisis to come. But 500 people must come and help me, not to just sit around doing nothing. Thank you so much. Any question?
Many thanks, Mr. Suchivarondam, for this inspiring presentation.
Yes.
And your work truly reminds us that when communities are empowered, soils are treated with care, and innovative business models take root, cities and peri-urban areas alike can thrive. And it's a wonderful example that you are presenting to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isabel.
I want to go back now to Chile. So I am told that Alejandra Berreca Ortiz is online.
Hi.
Oh, good, excellent. Thank you so much. Alejandra Berreca Ortiz from the Ministry of Housing and Urbanism of Chile. And you are going to explain to us how the city of Santiago has become greener and more resilient through soil remediation and nature-based infrastructure. The floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Today, I will talking about greening the city, soil remediation in Santiago de Chile, the case of Pierre Dubois Park. Today, I'd like to share with you the experience of Pierre Dubois Park. It's a project developed in Santiago de Chile, focused on the recovery of degraded soil and the creation of new urban green spaces. This initiative emerged from the need to address a very unequal distribution of green areas in our city. In Santiago, there is a clear inverse relationship between housing density and vegetation cover. In other words, the more densely populated and often poor the neighborhood, the less green space it has. To give you an idea, the 5 wealthiest municipalities located in the eastern part of the city hold about 34% of the total green surface, while the 5 poorest ones barely exceed 8%. We know that the urban green areas play a vital role, ecological and socially. They improve air quality, regulate temperature, and provide places for recreation and community interaction. They also help build stronger social ties and have proved benefits for people's physical and mental health. In Chile, the national standard suggests 10 square meters of green area per inhabitant. However, in our case of study, the municipality of Pedro Aguirre Cerda, this one, the value was only 2.4 square meters per person. So recovering degraded land was not just an environmental challenge, but also a matter of social equality. The Pierre Dubois Park project emerged from this challenge to reduce the green space deficit in the southwestern area of Santiago and to transform a former landfill into a place for community life. The goal was to restore and revalue this area through a continuous green corridor, improving the residents' quality of life and their connection with nature. The full initiative was planned in 3 stages. Today, I will focus on the second one, known as Pierre Dubois. The first one was the middle, Andrea Lan. The second one, Pierre Dubois, and the third one is now on working. Let me briefly walk you through the history of the site. Back in the 1950s, the land known as La Feria was used for the extraction of sand and gravel. By the 1960s, it has become an illegal dump for debris and domestic waste. In 1970, it was expropriated by the state and operated as a legal landfill until 1984, when it was finally closed and sealed as part of the sanitary clause. Gas vent chimneys were installed. A illegal dump continued until 1992, when the first recovery stage, Andrea Land Park, was developed and inaugurated in 1997. The other 2 stages remained abandoned for many years. In 2014, the design for the second stage, Pierre Dubois Park, was completed and the park was inaugurated in 2018. Today, the third and final stage is under development by the ministry, and we expect its inauguration around 2028. Before design and construction began, the site was in very poor conditions. It was empty, degraded, and filled with trash and rubble. Even though it was fenced, it continued to be used as an illegal dump area. Initial soil studies confirmed that there were no exposed residues. The entire landfill was fully covered and the surface showed no major cracks or erosion. The existing gas chimneys were still functional, allowing us to monitor biogas emissions. Inside the site, several informal uses were identified, such as animals, mainly horses and dogs, and even a small precarious houses in the central area. All of these had to be removed or relocated before the park design could proceed. To understand, this is the methodology that we use. To understand the soil condition, we established a 50 by 50 meters grid, identifying 30 sampling points across the site. At each point, exploratory pits were excavated, biogas measurements were taken, and samples were collected for laboratory testing. The process involved excavation, removing material, monitoring gases, and describing the soil stratigraphy to determine soil composition. Samples were analyzed for waste characterization, biodegradability, organic matter, and moisture content. These results help us define the site's safety and stability conditions for future use as a public park. The results were very positive. All surface layer measurements showed no detectable methane, which means there was no gas migration to the surface. Methane concentrations across the sampling points remained below 10%, confirming that the landfill had reached its final maturation phase. This gave us the confidence to proceed safely with construction. Based on those findings, we designed a mitigation plan. Its main goal was to prevent water infiltration, which could reactive decomposition process and increase gas emissions. So we also confirmed that the soil cover was thick enough to support the park structure and landscape elements. To further ensure safety, we installed 10 gas chimneys, some of them recovered from the original ones, evenly spaced every 80 meters across the site. This network guarantees effective gas ventilation and long-term environmental stability, allowing the park to be safely used by the public. This is the park today. Finally, in 2018, Pierre Dubat Park was inaugurated with strong participation from local residents. The community was proud to reclaim a space that had been abandoned and transfer it into an accessible park. Today, what was once a landfill has become a green and inclusive space, offering recreation, environmental restoration, and social integration for thousands of people. It demonstrates how urban soil recovery can help address environmental inequalities and create healthier and more resilient cities. To conclude, this project shows that even the most degraded soils can be brought back to life if we combine solid scientific assessment, carefully design, and community engagement. It's a small but meaningful example of how local action can contribute to global urban sustainability. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alejandra Ortiz, for this excellent example, and shows quite well how we can combine policy, science, and community participation to remediate soil and restore ecological functions and make urban spaces healthier and more inclusive. Excellent. I am afraid we will not have time for questions and answers today as we have finalized our time. But we will hopefully have time tomorrow at the latter part of the symposium, the second section. So, dear participants, I sincerely thank you for your active engagement throughout today's session. And our discussions have underscored the crucial role of urban soil in ensuring food security, providing essential ecosystem services, and supporting community well-being. These insights shared today reaffirmed the importance of sustainable soil management and highlighted the collective efforts needed to address the challenges and opportunities ahead. Tomorrow we will continue actually with the same material. You can say that the input from Chile is like a bridge, because tomorrow we will talk more about soil sealing and de-sealing and restoration. But with this, I now conclude the first day of our symposium. And I look forward to welcome you tomorrow again, as we will focus then, as I say, on soil de-sealing and restoration. And thank you so much for today.